Facebook, if you put the time in, it's still a very powerful platform. So I would do Twitter, Facebook, and if your business is about business or dealing with other businesses stuff, then you definitely want to be on LinkedIn. And then, like I said, if you're a visual business, then you should be on Pinterest. You should be on Instagram. Instagram, #1. Pinterest, if you have the time, be there too. But that's how I decide. It really depends on what type of business you have.
Welcome to the Shweiki Media Expert Webinar Series, where we team up with leading marketing and publishing experts to provide you with tips and best practices to help you grow your business and stay on the cutting edge. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. I'm here today again with John Paul Aguiar. And John Paul is a blogger and entrepreneur and has dedicated himself to helping other bloggers, entrepreneurs, and small business owners learn how to use blogging and social media smarter. His road to success started when he was 25 and needed a kidney transplant and was told he would be put on disability. So he was forced to look for other ways to make money that wasn't a 9-to-5 job, and within 11 months, he was already making enough money that he was able to stop receiving those checks. John Paul took that success and has used his marketing know-how to build a very popular and successful blog with a total following of over 110,000 in less than 2 years. And in 2013, he was number 6 on Forbes magazine list of top 50 social media influencers. His approach to blogging and marketing is straightforward and simple to follow no matter what your experience. And John Paul brings a personal approach to the tips and advice he shares with a touch of humor to make learning less stressful. And today, we are going to be talking about traffic generation ideas for your blog and websites for small and large budgets. John Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing excellent. Doing excellent. Looking forward to seeing how you can have everybody else generate all that traffic and get over 110 followers in less than 2 years.
Yeah, it'd be nice, right?
Yeah, it would be nice. So tell us how to do that, right? No, but yeah, very, very. You obviously are a person who has a lot of experience here and can share your wisdom and your trial and error from all these years of figuring it all out. So looking forward to hearing what you had to say. But before we get into some of your tips and ideas for before we ask people to invest their time and money into generating traffic, would like your take. Before we get into these different platforms, on how you decide what platforms you should concentrate on for getting, the traffic you're looking for.
I think it depends on either what your blog topic is about or what your business is about. So obviously, if you have a very visual business, you're a photographer, you're a cake decorator, or whatever, then obviously you should be on Instagram immediately. But if you're just a blogger, maybe on the tech side, then maybe Instagram isn't the #1 focus for you. You should still be there, but it shouldn't be like your top 2 or 3 platforms. That's how I choose. I think for me, #1 is always Twitter, because no matter what your topic is or what your business is about, Twitter is the only place or social media platform that for free, I can put you on Twitter and within 3 or 4 days be driving traffic to your website. Now, it's not going to be a huge amount of traffic, but you'll be getting people to your website in about 3 to 4 days. You can't do that with Facebook. You can't do that. You definitely can't do it with Google Plus anymore. Instagram is, again, you can't do that. So Twitter is where you can be very offensive. You can be, you can chase the traffic. You can put yourself in front of people very easily. And on Facebook and everywhere else, you really can't do that unless you're willing to spend money. Like Google Plus in the beginning, you could do that. You were able to kind of work it the same way as Twitter. But that was like 2 years ago, 3. When they first came out, it was great, but now it's pretty much dead. So the only platform left, really, that you can jump on and immediately start seeing results in, like I said, 3 or 4 days is Twitter. So I would 100% be on Twitter first. You have to be on Facebook just because it's Facebook. So Facebook, if you put the time in, it's still a very powerful platform. So I would do Twitter, Facebook, and if your business is about business or dealing with other businesses stuff, then you definitely want to be on LinkedIn. And then, like I said, if you're a visual business, then you should be on Pinterest. You should be on Instagram. Instagram #1. Pinterest, if you have the time, be there too. But that's how I decide. It really depends on what type of business you have.
Gotcha. So, a bit of logic, knowing your industry needs to play a part. Visual, you got Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest. Business focused, you got Twitter, LinkedIn, and potentially Facebook. And obviously, if you're doing videos, you got YouTube, and then of course, we have our own platforms like email to talk about, and then you have some other CMSs like outside blogging platforms like Medium and stuff like that we can talk about. So, so a little bit of logic needs to go into deciding on these platforms. So you're going to know your business on that. So once we decide now. So, like I said, we got Facebook, Twitter, we're going to stick to the main ones here today. You got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn. You talked about Google Plus, and you're not the only one who's a little bit sour on it. And then you got YouTube, email, other stuff, and then you have your Flickrs, Tumblrs, Reddits, and stuff like that. So let's dig into some of these platforms individually. We can start at the top. With and again, for the purposes of, the time restraints of the podcast, we'll stick to like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and like for you to, again, smaller, larger budgets, no budgets if possible, give us some of your tips on these platforms, and let's run through them.
Okay. The only difference between like a no budget to a small budget to a large budget, really the things you do are the same. I think the only difference will be how much money you put into the advertising. That's really the only difference between a small to no budget business or blogger or whatever to somebody with a lot of money. That's really the only difference. It's just the amount of money you're going to spend on the ads. But the stuff you do is pretty much the same.
Okay.
To me, Twitter is the #1 place. Like, all right, when I do a new blog post, if we're trying to get traffic to a new blog post, then Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, these are the three main places I send my blog posts to immediately once they're published. And to give yourself the best chance to drive traffic, you have people to see those, your tweet or your Facebook share or on LinkedIn post or whatever, then you want to post that new blog post at least 3 to 4 times throughout the day, hours apart, which gives you a chance to get in front of people who come on Twitter or Facebook in the morning, afternoon, or at night. And when you do that, then you want to, when I do a blog post, I always have about 4 or 5, I have one image for the post, and then I have 4 or 5 posts I'm going to use for social media. Images I'm going to use for the social media. So every time I post on social media, I change the title. You want to say the same thing, but you want to say it in a different way, because some people like questions, some people like numbers in the tweet title, and you want to hit different people. Same with images. Some people like a funny image. Some people like images with text on it. Some people like a dramatic image. So you want to, as you share the post throughout the day, you want to mix everything up, because if you only share a funny image, then the people who don't like a funny image won't click on the post, and vice versa. If you just share a dramatic image or something and that doesn't appeal to people who are a little loose, have a little personality on social media and stuff, they're not going to click that post because it's not really feeling it to them. So you want to give yourself the best chance to mix things up, change the title, so when people see it across Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, it gives you the best chance throughout the day to get as many people to see it and click on it and come to your blog to read the post.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and or great advice. And on that note, for like time saving, when you do use a tool, a scheduling tool like a buffer app, you aren't allowed to post the same thing, right away. So by mixing it up, the words, the copy, and everything, you can still drive people to the same post, but you are doing different words, different images and stuff that will allow you to schedule those posts. So that your advice not only is tactically smart, it can be, you can accomplish the time savings of buffer rather than having to go back and do it. Remember to go 3-4 times throughout the day, in case you're at meetings and have other stuff. Awesome.
Oh, Hootsuite. I use Hootsuite. So Hootsuite is where I used to schedule my posts, and they allow you. So I just schedule. And again, if you're going to share 4 times, then make sure you share other people's content around your post. I don't want you to share 4 tweets a day and if your blog post 4 times. You don't want to do that. You want to mix those 4 shares throughout the day within other content that you're sharing on Twitter or Facebook. But then when you do, I use Hootsuite. I've used Buffer. They're both great tools. And do scheduling, because nobody cares how the post gets on social media. They just care if you're active and available around when that post goes out. That's all they care about. So scheduling is completely nothing wrong with it. It's a great way to save time and be more efficient throughout the day. But as long as you know if that post is going out at, say, 9 a.m., you want to make sure you're active around Twitter and Facebook around 9 a.m. in case somebody asks a question or makes a comment about the post. But scheduling is, without scheduling, without Hootsuite, the last 10 years, I would be lost. Like the scheduling is like a huge part of what I do every day.
And how did you decide when, like what times of the day that you send out yours?
For me, over the years, I found that when I do a new blog post, I send it out about 9 a.m. Then I send it out about 12 in the afternoon, and this is East Coast time. Then around 4 o'clock, kind of when people are getting ready to finish work, because the last hour of people, when they're at work, they're not doing anything. They're usually on social media stuff, so that usually works really well for me. I like around 8 o'clock at night too, right before people sit down and start watching TV. And if you can, 10:30 at night, between 10 and like 11, 12 at night, kills it. Because a lot of people have families and kids, they put kids to bed, they finally get to relax. A lot of people are on social media late at night, and I do really well from like 10 to say about 12 o'clock. Within, if you can, if you have the time to be. But again, if you're going to put a post out, make sure you're available, because you don't want to just be posting things and not be available around your shares. But for me, those are the best times, and I think as you posting different times of the day, you'll see the day or the times of the day what works best for you. And again, that changes during the week. So those times work great, say on a Tuesday, Wednesday, but they don't work that well on a Monday and a Friday, because then Friday's a little different. So within reason, those are the times that work really well for me. But then you'll know as you're sharing, you'll see which times of the day you get more attention. And then if you feel like 5 o'clock works better for you, then try 5 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I think it's just one of those things. Pick a few times, because I'm not a big believer of the best times of the day to tweet. I think that's all bullshit, because every day changes and everybody's followers are completely different. You have to test it and see what works for you, because I've read many posts that say the best time of the day is post at 2 o'clock. And I post at 2 o'clock and I get no attention. But I post at 3:30 and it kills it, or 4 o'clock and it kills it. So don't get too tied to the best times of the day to tweet, because most of the time it's not going to work for you anyway. You just need to test, post throughout the day, pay attention to the day. All right, on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, I did really well. Let's try that again. Now, if you notice a pattern that every Wednesday at around between 3 and 4 when you post, you do really well, then you know that you need to be posting between 3 and 4 and make sure that your content's the one going out between that time, not somebody else's that you're sharing, because you've noticed that you get a lot of attention when you tweet around that time. So it's just something you're going to have to pay attention to.
And I think Twitter shows you a little bar graph that shows you your highest engagement times of the day too. That's just like on Twitter, like on your profile. You can just look. I think it's to the right. You can check that out. So that might help with making some of those decisions. Now, what other? Let's talk about hashtags in regards to Twitter. Like, how do you? I mean, do you utilize them still? Do you?
I do use hashtags on Twitter. I change those up too.
How do you decide?
I have like about 20 of the same, because I'm pretty much posting about blogging, social media, small business, email marketing. So I'm pretty much in the same topics all the time. So I have about 20 of the same ones I use, hashtag social media, hashtag FM for small business. Then you got blogging, hashtag blogging and blogging tips. So I change up my hashtags. I only use 2 per post on Twitter. And I use them at the end away from the link. I like to separate the link so the link is by itself, and then I'll separate 4 or 5 dots, and then I'll put the hashtags. So that way the link stands alone and there's no other links around it. I use 2 per post, and every time I tweet, so if I tweet in the morning, I'll use 2 hashtags. When I tweet again in the afternoon, I'll use 2 different hashtags. I may reuse them later on, like by the nighttime, I may use the ones I used in the morning. But I try to mix up the hashtags also, because again, it gives you the best chance, because if you do use a hashtag and you're ranking on the top for that hashtag, you don't need to use that hashtag again because you're already ranking. So you might as well use another one, give you a chance to maybe rank for 2 or 3 different hashtags for that blog post. But I like to use them, and I only use 2. That's the most hashtags I'll use, because I think it gets a little too busy. And I know some people use 3 or 4, and it's just too much.
Gotcha. Now, what if somebody's just getting going and they're like, should I use blog or blogs or blogging? Is there a place you can go search the volume for the most popular hashtags?
Yeah, you can do a Google search and you'll see how busy each hashtag is. If you do, a Twitter search, if you just punch in the hashtag, and you'll see how busy they are. I also like using a tool called Hashtagify. I did a review for them a couple years ago, and that's a great tool. It's one of those things. There's so much information about hashtags. So they'll find hashtags for you that you've never even heard of yet. Get some nice volume. They'll give you the main. I use the main ones, the main hashtags for me. I like smaller hashtags. And again, if you're going to use more than one, so in the morning I may use blogging, but then there's another hashtag called blogs, and then there's another one called blogging tips. So I'll probably use all 3 throughout the day, so I'm not tied to just the one. So you don't need to know the best ones as long as you have a few for each. And I have a list, but now I've used them so many times I already know. And the nice thing about Twitter and Hootsuite is when you punch in a hashtag, because I've used them so many times, it already pre-populates it and puts it in there and says, do you want blogging tips or whatever, and then I just click it. Gotcha. But once you have a list around what you're talking, again, for me it's blogging, business, social media, marketing, online marketing, entrepreneurial stuff. So I have, I stay in my lane, and I just have hashtags that fit pretty much what I talk about.
Okay. Now, in your experience, what have you found? There's lots of articles out there. I read about 100 of them, but most retweetable words and phrases and stuff like that.
It's all bullshit.
It's all
crap. It's all link bait, man. It's all link bait. Because what's funny is what was it the other day? For years they've been saying the same thing. For years they've been saying you have to use an image with Twitter, which I always do, right? Because I think it works. I get more results when I upload an image with my tweet. But for years they say you have to use an image with your tweets. Blow away a link with text link with no image. The other day I saw a post. They did a metrics, testing. They looked at 50,000 posts, blah blah, and now they're saying that a tweet without an image works just as good as with an image. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. For the last few years, it's like you have to have an image or you have to do something.
Yeah.
That's why you set up a Twitter card and all this. And it's such crap. I use an image because obviously, if you're looking in a stream, if you have 5 tweets in your stream and one of them is a tweet with an image, obviously that's going to get your attention. You're going to click that faster because it has an image with it and it's just a bigger tweet, right? So I use images. I think they work. I like to change up my images. Like I said, some people like, stats in the image. Some people like a funny image, whatever. And there's many times that people have told me they read my blog post from Twitter because of the image, not because of the title, not the tweet, none of it. Because the image I use is what got them to go read the post. So I believe images work. I would not tweet without an image. I never have. I never do, unless it's somebody else's. But if it's mine, and nowadays, if you set up a Twitter card, it's so much easier. Like, I like to tweet with the Twitter card image sometimes, but sometimes I like to upload my own image because the Twitter card will use the same image over and over. And if you're going to mix up the images, you have to do that by hand. But again, if you use Hootsuite or Buffer, you can choose the image you want and change it for each tweet. So I use images, but I would be careful with all the stats because, again, you don't know who they were, testing, who the 50,000 posts they looked at. I don't really look at those stats because I don't believe them. And that goes along with the best time to tweet and all that stuff. I think it's great for a blog post. It's great that you did the research. But the reality is that doesn't mean it's ever going to work for somebody else just because that's what they found.
Gotcha. Now, any other, before we move on from Twitter here, any other tips as far as like character links, to leave room for retweets or, any other just kind of, little bits and pieces of advice that
tweets for me, I like to do tweets that are simple. I like the title, dash, link, space, 4 dots, space, then my 2 hashtags. I don't like putting the hashtags inside the text. I think it looks better and it's cleaner the way I do it, and it makes people see the link. Because I've seen tweets where they have the person RT's name, that's a link, then the actual link, and then they have hashtags, like 2 hashtags. So you have 4 links in a row, and you're making it very hard for people to see what to click. So I like to keep it clean. Title, dash, the URL, space, space, text. I use dots, hashtags, simple.
That's what I do. Leave some space, like 120 characters instead of 140, so people leave.
Yeah, I try to, man. Sometimes you can. If you can, it's definitely a good idea to keep it as short as you can. But there's other times where the title has to be a certain length, and I have to use up, it's either that or don't use hashtags. So sometimes I don't leave a lot of room. I try to. It's a good idea to leave room. But honestly, I don't think it's a big deal. I think if somebody wants to retweet it, right, I don't think they're going to stop themselves because they have to do a little editing and then be like, oh, I'm going to share John's post. I love it. Oh, I have to spend 2 seconds editing it down to fit my tweet. I don't think that's a big deal that people are going to be like, oh, I'm not spending those 2 seconds. I'm not tweeting John now. I don't think that's going to happen. I think people will make the effort to clean it up and do what they have to do to fit. But if you can keep it to 120, 130, that's a great idea. And now that the images don't count, that makes it very easy now that the characters don't count towards the total count. So using the 140 is a little harder now because you have much more room. You have at least 5 to 10 characters extra because the image URL doesn't count. So, but if you can, keep them shorter. As far as Twitter, the other thing is the Twitter ads. Twitter ads work well. If you're specifically talking about Twitter or anything social media, then Twitter ads work really well. I wouldn't spend a ton of money on them. If it's a new blog post and it's targeted to Twitter, then I'll spend $5, $10 just to get it out there and see if it gets a little more attention. Other than that, Twitter ads, I just don't think they work as well as people talk about. But I would use them. If you have a really specific blog post, especially if it's targeted, talking about anything Twitter or anything social media, then I think those work a little better than a post about blogging or business or whatever. But other than that, man, that's all I would do.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's talk a little bit about Facebook. What do you got first there?
Facebook, pretty much what I do on Twitter, I do on Facebook. Obviously, the only difference, I don't use hashtags. I just use title, link. I share the same way I do on Twitter, because I share in chunks, right? Each of my shares across Twitter and everywhere else is shared in a chunk. So one chunk is 4 pieces of content, right? 3 pieces links from somebody else, somebody like you or another blogger or maybe Forbes magazine or big website. And then the last tweet will always be my stuff, whether it's my blog post, my video, whatever it is. And that's one chunk, and then that's one piece of content. And I do that because I can have 3 hours. One chunk takes up, let's say, 2 hours or 2.5 hours of content. But I physically only went on Twitter for 10 minutes. But yet, people looking at my profile think John's been on Twitter from 9 a.m. to like 12:30 because my content is going out, a tweet's going out every 30, 35 minutes. I physically only popped in like for 10 minutes just to see if anybody replied, commented, retweeted, I'll thank them. So it saves you a lot of time. So you look like you're on Twitter all day, but the reality is you only physically went on Twitter throughout the day, maybe an hour tops at 10, 15-minute increments. That's a big time saver because a lot of people I know, especially people with a bigger budget and a little busier, they don't use social media and Twitter because they think they have to be there all day. And the reality is you have to look like you're there all day. You don't have to physically be there all day to have the same results. So on Facebook, I tweet the same. I share the same way. I share a bunch of stuff. I share a link. I change the images. Pretty much the same thing. Only difference is on Facebook, I just believe the ads work much better than Twitter because if you share just even on your personal page, on your business page on Facebook, just boost the post for $5. For $5, you'll get in front of another 2,000, 3,000 people, and it'll cost you $5. And a boosted post is very simple to set up. You can post your page and do that. On the Facebook side, if you have a personal page, which is what I use 90% of the time, because I get more engagement on my personal page, I usually will do 1 or 2 ads for the post, and again, change the title and change the image. And I won't spend a huge amount of money, unless it's a very important post. If it's a post talking about a webinar or a new course or free ebook, then those types of things I put a lot of money to. But if it's just a blog post, unless it's like a 4,000-word blog post that I spend a lot of time on, I really want people to see it, then I'll put a little more money to it. But if it's just a regular blog post, $5, $10 ads will do really well and get you a lot of attention and drive traffic to that post. But Facebook ads I do really well with. I like Facebook ads better than Twitter ads.
Yeah, I think we've noticed the same thing here. Now, what about like Facebook groups and targeting groups or getting involved? Are you familiar with that at all?
I posted groups on Facebook and also, LinkedIn, but we can talk about that after. But Facebook groups kill it. The only problem with Facebook groups, you have to be able to, I have about maybe 20 groups that fit Twitter, social media, blogging, business. But to do really well with groups, you have to pop in on days that you're not posting, because if you only go there when you post something, most people won't care, but there'll be a lot of people that just think you're just spamming the group. So if you're going to use groups and post your blog post, which I think is a smart thing to do and get you a lot of attention, but the days you're not posting, you should pop in, like a couple people's stuff, even leave comments here and there, so they see that you're active on days that you're not posting anything. So then the days that you do come on and just post something, a new blog post, people will pay attention because now you're part of the group. Because you want to be engaged, you want to be part of the group. You don't have to be there for hours, but if at least every day or every other day, pop into each group, like a couple posts, make a comment, but at least be part of the community. So that way when you do use groups and you post your new blog post, you'll get much more results. But I definitely do that.
That's a great point. Now, you don't have to go to 20. You can start with 1 or 2. Now, can you give some advice on like a local business for, somebody like you who's national, you're looking for people talking about Twitter and Facebook, and that could be worldwide. How do you find the right groups for yourself?
For me, since I don't care if they're local, I'm just starting to get more local like the last year. But before, because what I share can be everywhere. The only reason I've really gone local is because time differences. Like I've had people in Australia, and the time difference is just so bad, and you have to accommodate the client, right? So there's times where I'm doing calls at 2 in the morning because that's the only time the client is available. So the only reason I really focusing on local is because the time difference is becoming kind of a pain.
But how do you find the right groups? Like, say you're like an event planner or you're an accountant or whatever.
Just a Facebook search, man. If you do Facebook searches for groups, especially now that they updated it, you can find groups pretty quickly. You may have a hard time. It depends where you live. Now, if you live in New York, you're going to find a lot of local groups. It just depends what part of the country you're in. You may not find a lot of local groups. But if you're staying targeted in local, you don't need to have 20 groups to jump in. You really just need 1 or 2. So you should be able to at least find 1 or 2 local groups. And if you can't find a group that's super targeted, like let's say I sell baby clothes, and I can't find any really good groups that are, have more than at least 100 people in them. For baby clothes, I may find something else. I may find a group that's softly related to baby clothes, and maybe about maternity, and maybe about baby schooling or something else, but still people that would be interested in my baby clothes, even though technically the group is not for baby clothes. But you can soft target, and those people will be interested because if they have babies, at some point they're going to want to buy clothes, even though that group is not about that. So if you can't find super targeted groups, try to widen your search to get groups that are still interested in what you do, and those people will still be targeted in local.
Gotcha. So I guess the advice that I'm hearing is let's start with 1 group. You can find it through the search. Start getting involved, see how it works, see how much involvement, see how much you can take on, and then add another, and then go from there. And I'm thinking for like a local small business, 1 or 2 groups could move the needle big time, assuming that they're engaged, once, twice a week.
And if you're engaged, even more. Because if you're local, then you have another thing to talk about. You have that other connection. You're local. So it's even better because then if you connect with people in the group, you're going to have a better connection because now you're talking about, especially if they're like local meetings. When I think local, I think within an hour radius, right? That's basically local, super local. Then you have another connection because now you're local. So you're going to connect with these people on another level. And if you can do that, and again, groups, you don't have to be there every day, but you do have to be there on days that you don't post because then you'll just be looked at as spammer and then you'll be ignored and then you'll be wasting your time.
Understood. Understood. All right. Awesome. All right. Again, we're just going down some tips on specific platforms, and then then we'll talk about some stuff that'll apply across all of them. So, any specific tips for Instagram? I know it's a little bit different in regards to hashtags and the amount that is best practices. Targeting is very similar to Facebook as far as like ad spend, since Facebook owns Instagram. Right. But why don't you have any specifics you want to throw out there about Instagram that you haven't covered necessarily with Twitter and Facebook?
Yeah, Instagram I only post once a day. I mix it up, 1 post a day by hand. I use hashtags. I usually use probably about 10 hashtags. It works pretty well for me for the last year, maybe 10 months. I came back to Instagram. And again, it's very visual, so image has to be great. I do blog posts, so when I have a new blog post, I put it on Instagram one time, and I will just give the title, a quick little snippet of what the post is about, and then I just tell them to go to the URL. I just write the URL. Obviously, it's not clickable, it's not an active link. But if it's on my johnpaulaga.com, I'll say see it at johnpaulaga.com. And obviously, if they go to that website, it's going to be the first post they see. So you don't need to say, click my link in my bio. I don't really think that works or matters, because if the person is going to go to your site, they're going to see the first post is the new post you're talking about. And if you use the same image from the blog post in your Instagram picture, they'll know that, hey, this is the post I want to read. And that's all I do. And then I'll add the image and then hashtags that fit that, and I share. And sharing blog posts one time has worked really well on Instagram. So I would definitely do that. It doesn't matter what your topic is. And then on non-post days, I share 1 post a day, whether it's a social media or blogging stat image or YouTube, or just a quote image for entrepreneurs. Sometimes I take pictures. I mix in some personal sunset pictures and pictures. I have an old Lincoln that I drive, and I take pictures of that sometimes. So I like to keep it 80% business, 20% personal stuff. If you could throw in some Instagram ad videos, even better. Sometimes if you have a really important post, get on Instagram and make a video about the post and say, hey, the post is coming out tomorrow. It's going to be about this, this, and this, blah, blah, blah. Just to get people to pay attention and know that, okay, tomorrow a new post is coming out. But I don't do Instagram. You don't have to do much, and you'll get good results. Like I said, once a day, and I'm good.
Yeah, no. So to kind of point out a couple things you mentioned, people who aren't familiar with it. Instagram does not allow you to do unique linkable links within each individual post. You get one link and it's in your profile, which is what you mentioned about, some people say, click above, which will work if you have like a product store or something like that. But you're saying what you do is you actually type out what the URL is.
Just for the homepage, not for the actual blog post. Just so if the post is on johnpaulaga.com, then I'll just say, see it at johnpaulaga.com. That's it. Because if they go to that, because they're not going to, if you put the whole link there, they're obviously not going to copy, they're not going to write that all out. They're not doing that. But if they write out your johnpaulaga.com, when they land on the blog, the first post they're going to see is the new post. So you don't have to give them the direct link. You know what I'm saying?
That's the link. That is also the link that you have in your profile, the blog link.
Yeah, to my main. I believe it's the homepage link. On Twitter, I have a specific landing page for Twitter. Facebook and Instagram, I think it's just my homepage link.
Okay, so you tell them, hey, go to John Paul Aguilar and click on blog. Like you just give them.
Well, they'll see it as soon as they get to the homepage. That is the blog, and they'll see the post. That's the first thing they'll see.
So your new blog is on your homepage front.
Correct.
You put
when they get there, same with Brainy. You might have said BrainyMarketer.com. When you land on BrainyMarketer.com, the first thing you're going to see is the new post. You'll see because I use the same image, so now they reference it. Okay, that's the image I saw on Instagram. This is the post I want to read. They'll see the title. And that way it's sensitive. You can do the link in the bio. That's fine. But if you just put it there, like I said, unless you have a specific, and even if you do the blog, hashtag blog on your site, then you can put johnpaulaga.com/blog. That's short enough that people will copy that or write it out into a search bar. I think that's fine. And that works really well for me.
So on that note, though, if you're not a company that puts their new posts on their homepage, would you suggest they go ahead and their profile link is their blog page?
Yeah, they can put the direct link if they want to change it. Then they can say, click link in bio, and in the bio, put the actual link to the blog post. Yeah. And then the next time you do blog post, another blog post, just update. So then if you're going to do that, then have it directly go to the blog post. That way you send them directly to the blog post, and that's a little good SEO for a little while because now you're getting a direct link to the blog post from Instagram. So yeah, if you want to do that, I would test both and see which one you feel like works the best.
Okay.
But again, if you have, like I said, if you don't have it, or you have a really long URL, then obviously nobody's going to want to type that in. Then just do the link in the bio.
Okay, very cool. All right, moving on to Pinterest. Any differences with this platform on the basics of how to utilize it best?
Pinterest, I don't use Pinterest a lot, but if you have a very visual business, then Pinterest is one of those things you really have to be active and be in there almost daily, jumping around for you to really do well on Pinterest. So if you have the time, or you have a very visual business, then be on Pinterest. And again, posting once or twice a day, reaching out to other people, liking their stuff and their boards and things like that, connecting with people. But again, Pinterest takes a little more work. Instagram, you post once a day, you're good, you pop in. It's a very easy platform to use. Pinterest is a little different. You have to spend some time there. So if you have the time, then I would be on Pinterest. If you have either a very visual business, anything to do with crafts, anything to do with any products that have to do with women, obviously work really well there. Gardening, crafts, home decorating, anything to do with that, food, you should be on Pinterest, 1,000%. So it just depends how much time you have.
What about getting people outside your network? Hashtags, do they work well there? Do you do a lot of them like Instagram? Do you do a couple like Twitter? How's that?
I don't do hashtags on Pinterest. On Pinterest, I don't do hashtags. Instagram, I definitely do. Facebook, very rarely do I put a hashtag in because I don't think they work. Twitter, 1,000%, you should use hashtags. Pinterest, I don't use them. I don't kill it on Pinterest. It's not one of my big, it's like I'll pop in here every few days, but it's not a big platform for me. Again, if I had the topics I talked about were very targeted, because Pinterest works really well for really specific things. So if you have the time to do that, and then Pinterest, if you do images, you have to do new images for Pinterest. You can't use the same images you use for your blog, because Pinterest, to get attention on Pinterest, your images have to be beautiful, and they have to be vertical, and they have to be designed really nice to get a lot of attention, because you could have a great blog post, but with not the greatest image, people on Pinterest will just ignore it. So Pinterest takes a little more work. If you have the time to create new images to go with your blog post, if you have the time to use and be active on Pinterest, then it could work very well for you.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like it's very specific. So if you have a business that's going to be driven a ton by Pinterest, definitely dig into that, start playing around. There's, probably lots of information out there to learn more about exactly best practices there. But for business, regular business, non super crazy visual businesses, it might not be worth the time as much.
Yeah, if you're a tech business, then Pinterest probably isn't that important to you. I would say somewhere else.
Gotcha. Now, LinkedIn. Before we get into other stuff, let's touch on that a little bit. What have you? What pointers do you have for us on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, I've started using more and more because I just think it's I hate to say it, but it's a better quality people that you'll find there. I think, obviously, it's a business, it's a job place, it's a place for more business type of people. So the people you see on Twitter and on LinkedIn are completely different. So I've been focusing more on LinkedIn just because I think the clients that I'll get from LinkedIn in the traffic, I just at a higher level. I hate to say that, but my biggest clients have come, I'll say this, my biggest clients, the most expensive clients I've gone have come because they saw me on LinkedIn. All right, so not on Twitter, not on Facebook. LinkedIn is probably the most money as far as clients in the last 2 years compared to Twitter and Facebook over the last 5 years. So LinkedIn, I kind of share the same way. I like to share things that are very targeted. Again, it's a different type of platform. You can't really, they don't care about funny and stupid shit that you can use on Twitter and Facebook, and people still like that. LinkedIn, I just keep the content more targeted. I still share throughout the day. I share my blog posts with images. What works really well for me on LinkedIn is their groups. And you can only have so many groups. I believe it's like 20 that you can post to. But once you're part of these groups, similar to Facebook, you can go in and post your links there. And then when I post, I'll post my new blog post. And again, you can target. So I have some groups that are for Twitter, some are for social media, some for business, small business marketing, email marketing. So you want to, again, stay very targeted. So if you have a Twitter post, you don't want to put it on every platform, on every group, because it doesn't fit every group. So you want to be really specific. So I have certain groups for certain things. But the groups on LinkedIn work really well because I think people spend a lot of time in there.
Your post, or do you publish it and then share it?
I share my posts.
Okay, so you don't utilize LinkedIn Publisher?
No.
Okay. But
I share the post directly.
Okay, well then just as a side note, that's also something else people can do. You can actually publish on LinkedIn as well. I know some people go that way. Again, you got to pick and choose how much time you have in the day and the week and what you can do. But is that something?
Publishing works really well.
Yeah.
I know people that use the publisher and it works really well. Because again, you're publishing it there, so LinkedIn will tell all your connections, hey, John just published this. So it's a great tool. Again, like you said, you have to pick and choose what you feel is going to get you the best results quickest. If you have all the time in the world, then yeah, just like I take my posts and put them on Medium, but I only do that when I have the time. Even though it works, I don't have the time to always do it. So my biggest post will go to Medium. My biggest post would go to, LinkedIn Publishing. And again, that's something I haven't used, but I know many people that use it, and it works very well for them. Because again, it automatically tells them as soon as you publish it, LinkedIn will tell people, all your connections, John just published a new post. So LinkedIn does the work for you. I haven't used it. I just go to groups and directly, I share the post in my LinkedIn stream, and then I go to groups and I share the post directly into groups. And that works really well because the groups I feel on LinkedIn, they're more active. The people that are part of the group are more active. Facebook groups, sometimes it's hard to find a really good quality. Like it could have 5,000 followers, but probably only 10 people use it. So Facebook, you have to do a little more work to find really good groups, beyond the path that says we have 5,000 members. You have to really check the group and make sure. See, because I've been in many groups that say 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 members, and then if you look through the stream, it's the same 5 people either posting or commenting. So technically, they only have about 5 or 10 active people right now. So even though it looks like a great group, the reality is the group is dead. So LinkedIn seems like there's less of that. Most of the groups I'm in, they're very active, and LinkedIn groups work really well for me. And again, I share the posts, maybe 5 or 6 groups per post, depending on what the topic is, and that works really well for me too.
Gotcha. And within LinkedIn, it'll give you a notification if somebody does something. So check those notifications, and rather than having to go to each group, each page, and keep, looking at each.
Oh, and LinkedIn also sends emails. LinkedIn always sells like a summary email for each group. So group, let's say social media marketing, there'll be an email sent, and it'll show how many. John, I posted this guy posted this. So even if you're not getting the notifications, you're going to get an email from the group, just like a summary. And you sign up for that. You need to say, I want it once a day or twice a day, whatever. But you will get notifications. So LinkedIn does a lot of work for you to get attention to your blog posts if you're posting into groups.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, awesome. All right, we've covered some details on each of these platforms. So want to kind of move on to stuff that will apply across all of them. For instance, what kind of content have you seen work best for you? You know, how-to articles, quizzes, giveaways, humor. What have you seen? You know, of course you want to mix it up and you want to write to what makes sense for audience, what they're wanting to hear. But you know, again, just like we got to pick and choose where we spend our time for the distribution and the efforts and all that, we got to pick and choose what we want to be writing about, so, or talking about, or shooting videos about, or whatever. So, you know, if someone's just getting started, you know, what would you suggest there, you know, based on your experiences and the kind of engagement that you've gotten? What kind of post have you seen work best?
Like you said, you want to mix it up. So for me, when I do blog posts, I like to do 80 to 90%, you know, 80% very targeted. So blogging, social media, those very targeted. Anything to do with those two things, whether it's social media tools or blogging tools, blogging tips, social, anything to do with that. I'm not big on like news, I'm big on Twitter. So if Twitter came out with something, then I'll do like a video about the new feature on Twitter. But other than that, I'm not a news guy. I just teach people how to use the platform. So, but I also mixed in random posts. Like I did one post. Honestly, my most popular post was one when I left social media for 5 days after my grandmother passed away, like 5 years ago. And I came back, and I was popping just to look. And I came back after 5 days, and it's like nothing's changed. People were posting the same shit. The same people were posting like 1,000 times a day. So in that post, I probably called people an asshole about 100 times, right? But it was like a super honest, straight post, and that's my biggest, most popular post. Even today, that post still kills it, even though it's probably over 5 years, you know, about 4 years old. So you want to mix in a little bit.
What was that again?
It was just like a kind of a rant post, really. I left social media for 5 days, and I called it, you know, what I learned from leaving social media for 5 days. And in the post, I talk about like the same people posting the same crap, doing the same things that don't get results. And no matter if you leave, it was just just kind of a rant. And in that post, I called people an asshole, like, which I normally don't do, but about probably 100 times, I swear throughout the whole post. But yet that post, because it was so honest and real, I edited it for grammar and spelling, but I didn't edit it to kind of cut back so I wouldn't be so aggressive. I didn't care. At that, you know, my grandmother passed away. I kind of was kind of jaded with the social media thing for about a week. So I just wrote the post, man, and just let it go. And it was the best thing I ever did. The post killed it. So my point is, you want to stay targeted to what you do. Obviously, if you're a business or a small person, then this changes a little. If you're a business, then you can't really post things like that. But you want to mix things up. So how-to posts always do well. I don't care what topic or what niche you're in. How-to posts always do well, especially if you get in and get out. Don't write a 3,000-word post if you can say the same thing in 500 words. I'm all about get in, get out. Some posts are only 600 words. Some of my posts are 2,000 words. If I need it, I use it all. But if I can get in, get to the point, be helpful, and get out, and I can do that in 500 words, then it's going to be a 500-word post. So how-to posts, list posts do really well still. People love that because when you say 5 tips, people automatically go into the post knowing they're going to learn 5 things. And some people really, analytical people really like that. They know that they're going to read a post for a half hour, 20 minutes. At least they know they're going to walk away and learn 10 things or 5 tips. So numbered list posts do really well. Talking about tools in your niche, like for me, I talk about blogging tools, social media tools. Those posts always do well, especially if it's tools you actually use. You know what I mean? Don't just talk about a tool because you heard about it. But if it's a tool you actually use and tested and you're giving an honest review, people love that. That works really well. And then again, you want to talk about your stuff. So if you want to mention, the thing with blog posts is you want to talk about your stuff and yourself without actually saying anything about yourself. So when you write posts, you should treat them like little sales pages, where you're trying to promote and how great you are and how great, well, for somebody who has products, how great your product is, or for me, my services consulting is. I just write things so people mentally see that and be like, hey, John is awesome. I don't have to say that I'm great. I don't have to say you need to use my product. But if you write things in the right way and you're very helpful, your post will do well when it comes time to write about a post that normally, if you're talking about your product, if you've been helpful for months or you've been writing content around those type of posts, when you talk about, do a post about a product update or something, those will do well because those people know that you've been very helpful all the time. So when you do a post that's strictly about your business or about your new product, it'll get more attention because you've been helpful for so long. And blogging, you know, it's all about what can you do for me. People don't really care. They want to know how you can help them. So any post, however you want to write, whether it's a list post, a how-to, if it's helpful, if that person walks away and learns something, then you're good. That's really your only job, is to get them to learn something. If you're trying to sell something, then your only goal is to get them to convert and click the button and go buy it. But at the end of the day, you want to be helpful. Even if it's for me, when I do an affiliate blog post about a product and I have an affiliate link in there, it still has to be helpful. I still have to tell the person why you need to use this, why I believe it will help you. Not because it helped me, but why I think it'll help you, your business, your blog, whatever it is. And if you can do that, then your blog posts will get read, they'll start to get shared, and you just want to mix stuff in. And then every once in a while, do a random post. If you want to do a contest, like you mentioned, those posts obviously do really well. People love free shit. It's amazing what people do for $5. Like, even if your giveaway is a T-shirt, like you see that online all the time. They do a contest and all you're getting is a T-shirt that costs $5. Yet people will do so much just to get that T-shirt. It's just the fact of being part of the contest and getting something for free, no matter if it's a $5 T-shirt or, you know, a $50 item. People love that, and they love to be part of that, and they love to win stuff. So if you can do that, if you have a business, you have employees, talk about your employees, bring up employees or whatever. So I think you can talk about your business in a fun way without being about business.
Yeah, but bottom line is, you know, basically what I heard and what I, you know, hear everybody, be helpful. You know, be helpful. When you mentioned a couple things that are, you know, have stood the test of time, how-to articles, but that makes sense because for sure you're being helpful, you know, and giving them rundowns on this or that. So bottom line is be helpful in beginning and end. And then from there,
teach them something. They want to walk away. When the person walks away, they have to learn something. Whether, even if you're doing a blog post about 5 blogging tools, that person, you want the person to walk away and be like, and it's funny because when I do a tools post, I'm like, this is kind of silly because I'm sure all the people in the blogging niche already know this tool. But in reality, many people have no idea. I've done lists of, like, say, 5 or 10 tools, and I'm assuming everybody knows about these tools, right? Because they're part of my everyday, and I'm assuming somebody in blogging already knows these tools. And every time I've done a tool post, how many people be like, oh, I never even heard of this, and that one. And they haven't heard of, like, half the tools. And to me, it's like, even today, I'll talk about Hootsuite, and then people be like, what's Hootsuite? Which is crazy to me because in my life, I've been using Hootsuite for 10 years, and Hootsuite's everywhere on social media. So you would think everybody's heard about Hootsuite, so you think, oh, if I do a post about Hootsuite, nobody's going to care. But the reality is everybody's going to care because there's so many people out there that still have no idea what Hootsuite is.
No,
so even doing a tool post.
I hear you, man. I hear you. We joke about that sometimes here, like in a jokingly, you know, we're acting snooty, but really making fun of ourselves. Like when I was like, oh, you don't know what a UTM code is? Oh my God. We joke about it because we didn't know what that was at a certain point in time, right? So, I mean, if it's just, but then you do have those people out there, right? I know you have some friends who are like that, and I know you see personalities on TV who are like that, but come on, you didn't know it until you knew it, right?
Listen, everybody starts at the same place. You didn't wake up and be like, I know all this coding stuff. I didn't know all this blogging, social media stuff. So I don't make fun of nobody because, listen, I was a Momo. My blog for the first 6 months was dead. You understand? Like, my blog died. Like, it took me 2 years to finally get it to kill it. Twitter, I quit Twitter. Like, I'm big on Twitter, and I love Twitter, and I was probably one of the first non-famous people to hit 100,000 followers on Twitter. But when I first used Twitter, I hated it. I left it for 2 years. I didn't go back to Twitter for 2 years, and then I went back, and again, I was listening to all the people's advice that all sucked, and I decided, you know, if I'm going to try Twitter again, I'm just going to test shit. So even though I use Twitter, and Twitter's probably the biggest thing that built my business and got me attention in all these lists and all of my clients and work and traffic to my blog, but I hated it initially, and I left it for 2 years. So everybody starts at the beginning. So, but when you're doing a tool, I assume, because it's in your everyday, like what you just said, you assume everybody knows that because you deal with that every day. But then when you write it, you think, oh, nobody's going to care about this post because everybody knows about UTM codes or whatever. But then when you write it, you're going to get in front of people that have no idea, or they know a little bit, and your post just explains it completely for them. So even my point is, even if you're using a simple tools post, it's still helpful because not everybody's going to know the tools that you use. Not everybody knows about those tools. Or they heard about them, but never tried them. But because you just talked about it and they trust you, they're not going to go try Buffer, even though they heard about it, didn't really understand it, never gave a shit. But now you wrote about it and explained it a little bit, and because you used it and they trust you, now they're going to go use Buffer. Now you're the person that brought that to their life, and if they use Buffer and it saves them a huge amount of time, I'm looking great because I'm the one that brought them to Buffer and finally to start using it. So even simple posts like that is still helpful. So every post has to be helpful. Even if it's a funny post, it still has to be helpful. And if it's not helpful, then be personal. Then you're sharing something about your company, your business, whatever, but on a personal level, or the weekend you had. And if you can tie in, like, I went on vacation with so-and-so and then did this, and then I tie in a story that fits, that maybe it's about taking action. Maybe I was afraid to do something in my vacation. I was afraid to skydive, but then I broke my fears. And if I can tie that vacation post into a post talking about how to break your fears, then you're great. So now you have a story. It's personal. You actually did it, and now you're tying it in to be helpful, teaching people how to overcome their fears. So if you can do that, that post will kill it because you have story, you have teaching, then you can do that too. So you have
absolutely.
to.
You're being helpful. You're being helpful in the the spiritual sense. So absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I know we don't have much time left here, so I'd like to get a couple other takes from you here.
Let me talk about Reddit, man, because I've been using Reddit lately, and Reddit ads have been killing it.
Reddit
and it's
ads?
really cheap. Do Reddit ads on their subreddits. No, man, Reddit ads in their subreddits. If you can find subreddits that fit your niche, like if your niche is cooking or your niche is muffins, you can probably, well, again, Reddit gets, if anybody knows, Reddit is basically like a forum, right? But they get 4 million visitors a day, like it's insane. But for Reddit ads, I don't care if they're small or big, for $5 Reddit ad, you'll drive, if it's a good Reddit, like what you want to do is you want to find subreddits. And Reddit subreddits are basically like if you have a Reddit forum that's for cooking. A subreddit would be cooking with oil or something, or fried food. That would be like, it's part of cooking, but it's its own subreddit. You want to advertise in the subreddits, right?
No,
so
but
again,
let's talk about that a little bit. What have I heard? The two groups of people you don't want to piss off in this world are mommy bloggers and Redditors. So ads, what I understand Reddit to be is you talk about getting involved in Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. To what I've heard, what we know about Reddit is you have to be like really involved there. But you're talking about ads on subreddits. How do those get received? So the way if you're not like really super engaged.
I'm not super engaged. I'll pop in here and there, but I don't really use them. But if you write the ad in a personal way, which, for example, like first you want to find subreddits that have, you want to find about 5 to 10 subreddits that fit your niche. And you want each Reddit subreddit to have at least 5,000 readers. And when you look at a subreddit on the right side, it'll show you like the number of readers. You want to have at least 5,000. Because the thing about Reddit, like, which I was going to say, but you already said it, Reddit readers don't play. Like, when you go into a subreddit, they are active. If you go to a group in Facebook, you have 5,000 members, maybe 5 people use it. If you have 5,000 members in a subreddit, I guarantee 4,990 of them are active. So Reddit, you're right. You don't want to piss them off because they'll make your life miserable. And the mommy blog thing is hilarious because that's so true. So you want to find 5 to 10 subreddits that have at least 5,000 readers, right? And you want to spend about $5. What you want to do when you write, you want to do a link ad. And the majority of you can use link ad or text ad. I've used link ads, and that's all I've tried, and they work really well. So I've used it for selling because I have a website like the Lincoln Continental I have. I sell T-shirts for that. So I've used it for e-commerce also, and it's worked really well for selling T-shirts. But I've also used it to promote blog posts.
And you're safe. You're safe against pissing off Redditors with these ads because they're using them right now.
The ads have been around for a while. They work really well. But the thing is, you want to make it personal. So when you do a link ad, right, you're allowed to have an image. What you want to do is you want to upload a selfie, a picture of your face, a real picture of your face. And when you write the ad, the copy, you want to write it as you're introducing yourself, like you're trying to join the Reddit. So you want to say, hey, my name is John Paul Agya. I have I own a 1963 Lincoln Continental, and I've been looking for T-shirts, really cool T-shirts for Lincoln owners, but I couldn't find any, so I decided to design my own. So you want to write the copy like you're just joining the group, kind of. You're introducing yourself to that subreddit. If you do it in that way, it comes off a little more personal, and it's worked really well.
Now, is it for selling, or what about blogging? Like if you're going to use.
I do the same thing, and I'll do the same thing. Unless I've already posted it, I'll do the same thing. I'll say my name, and I'll say, hey, I just wrote a post about 10 tips for entrepreneurs how to use Twitter, or Twitter for small business. So you want to be almost like you're introducing yourself every time in ad. They know it's an ad because Redditors, they use the ad. That's not a new thing.
Okay, this is new to me, man. I appreciate it.
Listen, test, because obviously if you go into certain subreddits, people are a little more tighter, but they used to the ads. The ads are there, so it's not like you're doing something that it's not like you're trying to, like what Redditors don't like is when you try to promote shit in a subreddit. Like you post a link and they don't like that. But if you're doing an actual ad, they're used to that. They know ads are going to sell something because obviously Reddit ads are there. So you're not going to piss them off. But if you do it in a personal way, and like I said, like I do the link ads, you can do link with text. I like the link ad and image, kind of introduce yourself, say, hey, I just wrote this post, I thought you guys really like it, blah, 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 here's, it's about this, this, and this, or whatever. When I do the t-shirts, same thing. I just say, I just wrote these t-shirts, I am John Aga, I have uploaded these t-shirts, I have a 63 Lincoln Continentals, I just came out with these new designs. If it's a new design, then I'll say, I just came out with this new design, and I want to share with you guys, and I hope you guys like it, whatever.
That's awesome,
almost
John.
like introducing yourself.
That's an awesome tip of everything. I mean, you've given us a lot of good info here today. What I'm feeling in my gut is you just gave a golden goose. I mean, a golden.
Listen, and $5, $10, man. You want to test them, right? So when you find Reddit, you want to run about 5 to 10 of them at a time. Spend $5, right, for the ad. Then go back and look at which one. You want to make sure you're checking which ones are converting. And then if you find one that's converting, then you just throw more money at it. But you can do well for just a $5. If you're promoting a blog post, $5, $10, you'll get a lot of attention. The only thing is you have to keep active. And when you do your ad, you can choose to remove comments or add keep comments. Keep the comments open, and you have to be active. And again, understand it's almost like the comments on YouTube. Some of them are going to be ignorant, but don't take it personal. So you have to be active. So when you're running the ad, you have to check the comments and reply. That's going to help a lot because you're engaged. Some comments are going to be from idiots, and you can't stop that. But if you do, just like I do on Twitter, when anybody tries to attack me, I just laugh it off because at the end of the day, no matter how right I am, I'm always going to look like the bad guy if I tell some guy to go screw, even though I have every right to. But on Twitter, they don't see the full conversation. You always look like the bad guy. You can't win when you argue on social media. So on Reddit ads, same thing. You're going to have people that say really nice things, people that say maybe little smart-ass things, but that's the problem. Reddit is so busy, and some of those people are kind of uppity. But don't take it personal. Don't get upset. Just laugh it off, joke it off, reply to them. Don't ignore them, but stay active in the comments. And every time you run an ad, keep the comments open.
Gotcha.
And then as you do that, they'll get used to you. So what will happen is the more time you post in that subreddit, they're already used to you now because you've been in the comments, you've already posted an ad or two here and there. They'll get used to you, and things will work even better if they like what you post. And again, stay very targeted. If you have a cookbook, then make sure it's in a cookbook subreddit. Don't post a Twitter post in a Facebook group, Reddit, then obviously you're going to piss people off. But if you stay very targeted, if your content or whatever, your e-commerce, your product, or your blog post or content is very targeted, perfectly targeted to the subreddit, I'm telling you, man, for $5, $10 right now, Reddit, and the thing is, subreddits will drive a huge amount of traffic to your site, better than everybody else. The conversion may not be as good, but the traffic is insane.
But it means something. But it means something. Just because you don't get conversions on something does not mean it's useless. I mean, the gold is in organic.
The
right?
conversion, right?
I mean,
right.
the gold standard for getting a lot of conversions is organic, right? I mean, that's where people are searching for buying stuff. So, but all this plays a part in it. So the fact that what you're talking about Reddit, yeah, I mean, it's always been crazy intriguing, but at the same time, it's hard to dedicate a ton of time, which is what it used to be. So, but now you've given us a way to do that, and then get. Okay, gotcha, awesome. All right, I'm gonna have to let you go here, but let me ask a take on a couple of things real quick here. Those Q&A sites like Quora and stuff like that, getting involved in that, has that been worth your time?
Quora kills it. I've used it for years. I post content because on your profile, you can set up a blog. So all my new posts go there. I just do a snippet.
You can set up a blog because my understanding of Quora is, I'm set up to get notifications and I go in there and answer stuff when it applies.
Two parts to it. You do that. That's the main part. Answer questions.
What's the other part?
That's the main part, right? Answering questions. Again, it's just like leaving comments. If your answer is awesome, people are going to follow you to your blog and want to know more about you. The other part is you can set up a blog in your profile. So what I do is when I do a new blog post, I'll put just like a 1 or 2 line snippet, the direct link to my blog post, title, image, and then post it. And then what you do is you can get followers to your blog. And then your followers, I have like 5,000, maybe even 10,000 followers on Quora. I've used Quora, like the last year, I have it. I've been more focusing on LinkedIn. But before that, I was killing it on Quora. Quora is, if you have the time to even answer 1 question a day, and if that answer is awesome, and again, don't pop in there just because you want to be part of the conversation. Make sure you really have the right answer. And
that's the answer part. right?
Yeah, that's when you're answering questions, because the better your answer, people will vote it up, and then your answer gets to the top of all the answers. And if you do that, that will drive traffic to your site.
And you are allowed to, be helpful and then say, and by the way, we talk about this much more in detail here. You are allowed to do that.
Yeah. When you answer and say, hey, if you want to learn more about this, you can learn about our blog post. But the other part is just, if you don't have the time to do that, set up the blog, and then even if it's just for SEO, because some of this stuff I do just for SEO, it's not just about getting eyeballs on. It's also, that's a nice Quora backlink. And Quora has so busy because it's a Q&A site. They get traffic, like when you put a link on Quora, Google sees it like literally 20 seconds later. Because it's a Q&A site, they get crawled by Google like literally every second. So if you put a link on there, Google's going to see it right away, and they're going to get credit for that link back to the blog post right away.
It's a follow link? It's a do follow?
That I don't know. I put the link there all the time.
Regardless, it's going to drive you traffic and get eyeballs.
Yeah, put the link there.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, hey, John, I think we're about out of time. I have to assume other people learned a lot today because I am familiar with a lot of this stuff, and I learned a lot today personally. And I'm going to be going off this call and getting with my team and implementing a couple of these things here. Really appreciate it, man. It's always fun talking with you. How can people continue to learn from you?
They can see me at the blog at johnpaulagyar.com, A-G-U-I-A-R. On Twitter, mainly at John Agyar, J-O-H-N-A-G-U-I-A-R. Those are the two best places to find me.
All right, John. Let me spell that out again. I appreciate your Boston accent, but
it's
at J-O-H-N-A-G-U-I-A-R.
Oh.
All right. The bill in the bar. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it, man. And until next time.